take a mortal man and put him in control. Watch him become a god. Watch people's heads a-roll. A-roll, a-roll. Just like the Pied Piper led rats through the streets, we dance like the marionettes swaying to the symphony of destruction. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, deep in the bowels of our underground lair, heading up the resistance to the resistance, standing for law, order, and moving out of your mom's basement. How are you?
I'm good. Just a few millennials just came to my mind when you said that.
Do they all dress in black and cry downtown?
I don't know. All I know is they didn't have a phone and they didn't have a TV. They couldn't live.
Yeah.
So Seeds of Destruction? Is that what you called that?
I said swaying to the symphony of destruction.
That's what I said. Yeah. I know that song. Don't tell me.
Okay.
It's like some heavy metal band or something.
You work on that. You work on cracking that nut. And what a difference a week makes, huh?
Well, yeah, last week we gave play-by-play.
We did, and pretty much the bottom fell out of the world in 7 days.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
Funny, Tweetering had a bunch of pictures of Mayor French Fry.
Yes.
And I have never seen anybody ever, in any circumstance of my life, at work, school, business, sports, I've never seen a deer in the headlights like him last week.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, I really never have.
When he finally surfaced around whatever it was,
2 o'clock in the morning, and basically got yanked because he couldn't answer anything. I mean, he is unequal to he is not a human being capable of dealing with anything above community organizing.
Yes.
You're looking at a guy who, I think a 12-year-old girl could beat him in arm wrestling. I mean, he's just a little twerp. I mean, I don't know how to put it nicely. And he's somebody who's not a leader. He's not somebody who's gonna somebody afraid to take a stand. And I think it's part of what's going on in these inner cities is these left-wing politicians are always walking this tightrope. They can't offend anybody, and they can't enforce the law, but they're sworn to do so.
Right.
So there's this. Look at New York. I mean, you think de Blasio? I mean, you don't wear a mask, de Blasio will come after you.
Yes.
Now, you want to loot something, he'll make excuses for you, and all that. I mean, it's interesting how in Minneapolis, you sit at a church or sit at a restaurant or not wear a mask, the mayor comes after you. You want to burn the place down, the mayor stands there like a wuss.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just a total wuss. I got it.
Yes.
I know the band.
Okay.
Megadeth.
Yes.
Oh, that's almost 2 in a row.
That is 2 in a row.
The Timberwolves winning streak. Sometimes it takes me a minute. I got to figure the tune out. All right.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of an easy one, but it was very fitting for the week. So
I look easy for me would be like a Michael Jackson song, okay? So don't say it's easy. I feel extra stupid when you do that.
I said it after, so
all
it's
right, fine, fair enough.
Jay,
opening. I wanna do it. We're gonna have history lesson.
Okay.
For our little opening here.
All right.
We're in the first week of June.
Mm-hmm.
Totally irrelevant to what we're talking about here. Just something hit me today. Some interesting facts about the first week of June.
Yes.
And I have 4 little things quickly to share with everybody. I'm going to test your history knowledge.
Okay.
June 1st, 1862. Can you tell me what happened?
Oh, boy. I should.
Don't feel bad if you can't. I mean, this is not an easy. This is not like Gettysburg here, okay?
Right. It is Civil War, 1862. Yes. I'm trying to think what would have happened June 1st, 1862. No, it's definitely not Gettysburg.
Off by about a year and a month.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to remember the name of the battle, though. Is that where things started to change? We won the North won its first battle. No, okay. Nope. I mean, well, they didn't lose all of the battle.
Are you thinking of like Shiloh or something like that?
Yeah.
Shiloh was in April.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna.
That's close.
You're not far. You're about 500 miles off.
Well, that too.
There was a small battle of Seven Pines, it was called, in McClellan's Peninsular Campaign in the spring of 1862. Guy was wounded. The Confederate commander in the east at that time was a guy named Joseph Johnston. He was shot in the shoulder. He recovered. However, Jefferson Davis couldn't stand him, and the feeling was mutual. And Davis was a prickly. I think he was actually okay as a war leader, but he was prickly and just didn't have the personality to do it. And a man became the Southern commander that day. Mm-hmm. And his name was Robert Edward Lee.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say something controversial here. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's controversial because I mean this in a military way, not in the political way.
Right.
Robert E. Lee is the greatest general in the history of this country as a battlefield tactician.
Yeah.
Forget who he fought for, forget why, but he is the best of all time. And he became the Southern commander that day, never relinquished it until April 9th, 1865, when he surrendered to future President Grant.
Yes.
So I don't know why I thought of that, but I came across that in one of my old Civil War books that my grandpa left me. I'm going to test your baseball knowledge.
But before you do that,
Yeah.
I just have to say, every time I think of Jefferson Davis, I can only ever picture Boss Hogg.
You see General Lee, I think of a car.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you got me there.
Yeah.
Let me test your baseball knowledge.
Yeah, well, I'm going to suck at this one.
Probably. But you know my favorite team is the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
June 2nd, 1925.
Okay.
Do you know what happened with the New York Yankees that day?
Uh,
You're in the 1920s. It's not
Right.
Babe Ruth, but take a guess.
right, it's not. Everybody hated him as much as the day before.
They were actually in 7th place in the American League on this day.
I don't know.
Okay, June 2nd,
Yes.
1925 was the Yankees the Yankees won 3 pennants in the beginning of the decade and 3
Okay.
at the end. Kind of like the Chicago Bulls, but they were 2 different teams. Okay? And in 1925, they had a great first baseman by the name of Wally Pipp.
Yes.
And Pipp was not hitting well that year. And a guy replaced him at first base by the name of Lou Gehrig. That day began his 2,130 consecutive games that day. Pipp was shipped off to Cincinnati at the end of the year. And 16 years to the date later, Lou Gehrig succumbed to ALS
Yes.
in 1941, 2 weeks shy of his 38th birthday.
Wow.
So that was the day the streak began. 16 years later was the day he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just terrible because I believe Lou Gehrig's the second greatest baseball player of all time behind Babe Ruth. And all he's remembered for today is the streak and how he died.
Yeah.
I think that's terrible. I think it's just
Right.
awful that that's what he's remembered
Well,
for.
I mean, Cal Ripken is maybe only remembered for his streak as well.
Yeah, you're kind of right.
Great player, but
Here's a guy with 3,000 hits, 400 dingers, like 1,600 RBIs, and all the Gold Gloves and All-Star games, and he's remembered for showing up to work every day. All right, now let me give you another one.
Yes.
I got 2 more. June 4th, which is today.
yeah.
Politically, June 4th, 1919. I want you to take a guess as to what happened that day.
Gee whiz.
Now, you're in the
Yeah.
aftermath of World War I, and
Right.
it's not really related to that. But June 4th, 1919, Jay, what happened?
All right. June 4th, 1919. You said it's political?
Yes.
Political, okay. 1919. Warren G. Harding kicked the progressives out of...
That'd be the next year, but yeah. James Cox.
Yeah.
And Eugene Jebs from jail.
Yes.
Okay,
That was...
I'm going to spell it.
Yes.
Congress passed on June 4th, 1919, passed the 19th Amendment, allowing women to vote. It was not ratified by enough states until the next summer. Women were voting in the 1920 election, where, as you mentioned, that's where President Harding won. So that happened 101 years ago today, Jay. And another thing happened 78 years ago today. June 2nd, 1942. Can you guess what happened on that day? Now we're in World War II.
Right. Absolutely. Would have been. Yeah.
Okay, that was the beginning of the Battle of Midway.
Oh, okay.
3 days
Yes.
later, we would be victorious. Our first big win out in the Pacific.
That's right.
That started 78 years ago today. I'm always fast. Are you
yeah.
a World War II buff?
I am.
The dates are all.
I'm not one much for dates. I'm
Yeah.
more about like, okay, what happened and what does it mean? You know,
strategy. I've always been fascinated by the politics behind it, too.
Right. Me too.
Politics, you go back to 1864, you go to 1944. Politics continued as usual.
Yes.
See, my grandfather, sir, I've always been fascinated with the Pacific. My
Yes.
grandfather served out there.
So did mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he died in 2009-ish. He was in his 80s.
Okay.
But I know today, and he never told me this, but my dad told me this. It was my mom's dad, that he was out in the Pacific. He didn't turn 18 until 1944.
Okay.
And they were actually training to invade Japan when the my grandpa was in the Navy.
Okay.
And I don't know what his mission would have been, but because the plan was for the United States to invade Japan from the south and from Russia to invade them from the north.
Yeah.
And nobody knew about the atomic bomb. Nobody knew if it would work. But he was actually out in the Pacific when the bombs were dropped and the war ended a week later or something like that.
Yes.
So, and then for some reason, the Pacific, the islands, and it has always fascinated me more than the war in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is. I mean, it's just Iwo Jima, the picture of the guys putting the flag down and all that. For some reason, it's more intriguing to me than the European
Right.
side.
Yeah, I mean, people know less about that side.
They don't
as
know
well,
anything
You
about
know,
it.
when you think of all the
Battle of
battles
Guadalcanal,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's just sort of the
atoll. What's an atoll?
the island hopping strategy of General MacArthur to skip over some islands, not knowing where we'd strike next.
Right.
There was an unpredictability, but quite frankly, for midway on, we really didn't lose anything out there. I mean, the kamikazes hurt us a lot, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, we were on offense from that point on. So, but a Battle of Midway, very fascinating. Did you get to watch the movie?
Not yet.
I would watch that if I
Yeah.
were you. My wife and I went and saw it in the theater last year. It was very good.
Hmm.
Outstanding. The best person in the movie is Woody Harrelson.
Yeah?
And he plays Doolittle, I think. And
Oh, wow.
he's outstanding. I didn't even recognize
He
him.
is a good actor.
He's a great actor. I didn't even
Yeah.
recognize him for the first half of the movie. I'm like, hey, that's Woody the bartender. I didn't recognize him at all. He was fantastic
Yeah.
in it. So
we went into World War II and we took care of all the world's evil and then let Stalin ruin the world for the next 75 years.
well, yeah, we did kind of do that, didn't
Yeah.
we?
We kinda
Well,
did.
in retrospect,
Yes.
I mean, I have to say that I do blame President Roosevelt for a lot of that. I think his diminished capacity was. I think Churchill has to foot some of the blame. I don't think he was. I think they were looking. I'm not blaming them. It's hard to blame them, but the Americans and the British didn't want to lose any more men than they had to.
All right.
The Russians didn't care.
No, not at
Okay?
all.
The Germans didn't care.
No, people are expendable
Right.
when you're in a dictatorship.
And I think
Yes.
the strategy was if they want to go kill each other over there, let them. We'll take care of over here.
Yes.
If they want to have a bloodbath, they can. Unfortunately, as soon as the Red Army occupied Eastern Europe,
Yeah.
they weren't leaving.
Right.
And that's the consequence that came of it. So, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to believe that the Soviet Union was an ally. It's just, especially when you and I grew up, that era. It's so difficult to believe. I know they were in the war 2 years before us, but
Yep.
I mean, it's just the people you have to side with sometimes.
Exactly.
Go to war.
You had
why
to side
war
with the
sucks.
communists to beat the socialists, and then Okay.
I don't know. It's bad. And, here's the other funny part. The Spanish Civil War was going on. Franco and all that took over.
Right.
Do you know that the only country, because we had the Neutrality Acts going on at that time, one country aided the freedom fighters.
Yeah.
It was the Soviet Union. Now go figure that.
Yeah.
Those strange bedfellows.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know. Just
Soviet Union is like antithetical to freedom or people fighting the government, and
exactly.
Whatever.
I mean, maybe they were hoping communists would take. Well, they kind of did.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know that. I think Franco was a little unpredictable at the time, but he was seen as a fascist, not necessarily as a communist. But, so interesting. This is a little history lesson. You know a lot about Lou Gehrig now that you didn't know before.
I know a little more.
And you're going to go home and study the Battle of Seven Pines, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Southerners called it White Oaks. So go home and study that right before the 7 days. So anyhow, Jay.
Yes.
I don't know what the first week of June of 2020 in Minnesota history will reveal in the long run.
Oh, boy.
But in the short run,
Yes.
11 days or so has been a lifetime right now. We're not talking about the virus that I guess is over. Sure seems like it is. I mean, I thought we couldn't gather in groups more than 10. I guess we can. Last week we were kind of in the middle of the beginning or the end of the beginning or whatever you want to call it of what was going on. So just to start here, Jay, you step back from 30,000 feet. What's your take on what's gone on in the last week? Not just here in Minnesota, but everywhere.
Yeah. Well, as far as the violence and the riots, I mean, that has pretty much come to a stop in Minnesota, but it is still continuing in other places. They're having trouble containing it in D.C. They're having trouble containing it in other cities. I mean,
or they're not trying.
Well, yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah, and you have places that
Why doesn't the mayor of Los Angeles cut off their utilities?
Well, because he's too busy out in the streets with
he's
them.
one of them.
Yeah. And I think that is really the lesson to take away from all this is that if you stand for something that the people in control don't like, they're going to shut you down. If you stand for something that they, at least on paper, at least politically, are in favor of, you're going to get every favor in the book.
Here's my question, though. How long has one party run these big cities? There shouldn't be any racism in Minneapolis because Democrats have run the city for the last 60 years.
Right.
There shouldn't be any problems there. I mean, who is to blame? Ultimately, they are to blame.
Well, they're blaming the head of the police union for not...
Well, what does he do? I mean, he fights for his union. That's his job. They don't like him because he's not a Democrat. That's why they don't like him.
Right.
But his job is to fight for his guys.
Right.
Okay? If you were a boss of a union... Look, my dad was a steward in the Teamsters.
Right.
He fought for his guys even if he didn't like them or didn't agree with them.
Right.
He went and did his job. Because if he doesn't, then nobody's going to.
And you don't hear a word when it's like the teachers union takes teachers that have abused kids and they just...
Or teachers that
suck. Or suck. And they reassign them to a different school or put them in a room and still pay them for 8 hours a day. You don't hear anything then. But, yeah. But let me say, I mean, this guy had a record a mile long. I'm not going to stick up for him. I'm not going to defend him.
I'm not sticking up for him.
Go away. He needs to be charged. He's been charged with murder. I hope that by upping it to second degree, they can still make it stick. I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
They better. They better get a conviction.
We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Murder 1 and murder 2
are hard.
Are intent and premeditation. And I think, first off, why isn't he also charged with assault? I mean, if I went and choked somebody for 9 minutes, I mean, that's assault. But I mean, look, you convict on manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, and assault, you're looking at 30 years right there. So, I mean, you can get the time with... I mean, I think this is a stunt. I don't understand what gives Ellison the right to take this case over. I mean, why is that happening?
Well, Mike Freeman asked him to.
Well, I
that's
don't care. Wait a minute. Mike Freeman was elected
exactly
to do his job.
And he's not.
So why doesn't Ellison say, no, it's your case? You're the one who's here. It's what you're getting paid to do.
Because Ellison wants the spotlight, for one. And we know that. You know, he is eating this up. And if...
Yeah, he's taking advantage of a black guy's death.
And there's an article out in the Star Tribune, so this is not some right-wing rag, that says Minnesota's county attorneys call for giving Keith Ellison office... Sorry, I can't read today. Minnesota's county attorneys call for giving Attorney General Keith Ellison's office power to charge all police killings. So now every county in the state wants to turn this power over to Keith Ellison?
To the Attorney General or to Keith Ellison? Remember?
Well, his office.
Okay, but what happens when he's not Attorney General anymore?
Right, it'd be somebody else.
If Doug Wardlow was there, would they be doing this?
Well, no.
Yeah, didn't think so.
No. But the legislature has to vote on this and stuff like this, so it's not necessarily
that'll be difficult.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll put it in the bonding bill.
I think that's going to be a hard sell everywhere because local control, But
the county attorneys are asking him to do it. So all of you...
The county attorneys can ask for a sunny day, and it's, I don't really care what they have to say.
But that's like part of the process. They have to give him that authority. And so for those of you out there in Minnesota who don't pay attention to the county attorney races, this lets you know where your county attorney stands based on whether they were part of this group that asked for this or not. And so you better start taking that office seriously.
By the way, we should find out during this show our episode on county attorneys that we did last year.
Yeah.
Because only you and I can talk about county attorneys and make it a fun, interesting show. And if I recall, Jay, we have 87 counties in Minnesota. And if I remember right, and I may be wrong on this, something like 75 of them ran unopposed last time.
Yeah.
Remember, we did the research for that show in 2018. I mean, most of them. How many people can name their county attorney?
I can.
Well, yeah. I mean, us in Hennepin County. But I mean, and Mr. Freeman did not run unopposed, by the way. But I mean, ultimately, he's abdicating his duty by the citizens of Hennepin County elected him to do this job, and I just don't understand. And I'll tell you what, I mean, second-degree murder is going to be hard to prove here. I mean, look, obviously, he's guilty of something, some sort of murder charge or manslaughter charge. But I think you got a slam dunk for assault, manslaughter. I mean, you could argue depraved indifference, but
episode 134.
134.
A cold case, yes.
So that was our wonderful episode on county attorneys. Trust me, folks, we make the most boring subjects listenable. Okay, listenable. Beyond that,
yes,
the reaction to this by our leaders, and by the way, first off, the local media really was giving the governor a hard time for his lack of we got 13,000 National Guard troops, and Walz calls out for 350.
Yeah.
I think it was a week ago tonight, which was the 3 days after Mr. Floyd's death.
Yes.
Okay, 350. Mm-hmm. Now, ask me something too. Where was our sheriff during this time?
Apparently, the sheriff's office was watching super important things like the Federal Reserve in downtown Minneapolis, which nobody would ever be able to break into, and it shows where their priorities are. You think that the Republicans are evil because all they care about is the banking system?
Yeah, but our sheriff was certainly absent. I don't know what he was doing.
I did see a tweet from him, like after all the melee was over.
I want to say I saw a tweet too, but he certainly was not
telling everybody where he was.
He certainly wasn't out defending the citizens or defending buildings or defending people's businesses. If they were illegal immigrants, he might have. But 350, I love our men and women in the Guard. They're the best. But 350, they were outnumbered by a little bit.
A little bit.
Okay, they had President Trump offered the troops from Fort Bragg that could have been there in 4 hours. Walls supposedly turned them down, from what we hear. I think President Trump should have just done it anyway, but whatever. I mean, I have to give Trump credit that, during the coronavirus, during this, he has let the local people do their thing, which
he is the
pluses
worst
and minuses.
I have ever seen.
I know he's not. I agree. I mean, it's just amazing. He's certainly said a few things, and I think he has influenced some action. But he certainly hasn't come in with any kind of. I mean, Washington D.C. is a little bit of an exception because their government is set
federal.
up differently. Yeah, he has to do something there, but. That it took a while to get moving. And then, of course, regular citizens are the ones who pay the price. We're the ones who have our businesses destroyed. We're the ones that can't drive the streets. We're the ones who have to stay home at night while these bungholes go out and destroy the city. I mean, and our leaders were frozen at the wheel. I mean, that's not an overstatement. So now what's the response? The response is to do what now? Now what is Minneapolis thinking about doing?
Getting rid of the police, or defunding the police, and maybe getting rid of them entirely. And there's been a call for this, not only from Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis, the Minneapolis School District, Minnesota State College System is in favor of this. I believe out in Los Angeles.
Getting rid of all police?
In Los Angeles, I think they already voted to defund them. Yeah, we're recording this on a Thursday. Tomorrow, they're having an emergency meeting to vote on this.
What's the proposal?
What's the emergency? How about that?
Well, how about the public debate and discussion about...
Oh, you don't want to have a public debate and discussion.
Here's
what people want to say.
Here's my question. Minneapolis has a charter, right?
Yes, they have to have a charter because they have a strong mayor.
Now, I know a lot about charters, and you do too, that public safety, first off, it's part of their state mandate.
Yes, it is.
So how do they get away with not having a police force? How can they do that?
Well,
are they going to call it the Carmel Apple Club, or what are they going to do?
They might. The Feel Good Club. I don't know.
So somebody's robbing my house. I dial 911, and a bunch of Barack Obama community organizers who are unarmed, are going to come over and try to defuse that.
That is what I've heard.
So I want to see who wants to do that job. You go down to Lowry and 26th over there, and there's a something happens over there, and you go down there and try to bring the two to the table, and you take the cocaine and you take the heroin, and we're even now.
Yeah, and you may not get people that want to do that.
I don't think you're going to get anybody.
You might, but you might not, and it might just take a few incidents, and then who are you putting in charge? Is it the people that run, the people that can wield a little bit of power? You're going to get these Antifa thugs out there to...
Well, I mean, who knows what you're going to get? You're not getting people with proper training. You're not getting people with experience. You're getting this is a bunch of political stuff. And ultimately, you're going to end up putting it all in the sheriff's office is probably what's going to happen. The highway patrol and everybody else, they're the ones that are going to have to pick up the pieces of this. And here's another thing. Which means
everybody in Hennepin County is going to be paying for Minneapolis's law and order issues.
Not only that, but all of the law enforcement is going to be pulled into the city from everywhere else.
What's that going to do to the surrounding suburbs? Their smaller police forces are going to get overrun more easily.
Yeah, they won't have their backup.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's the idea that tomorrow they're going to have a meeting on this.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't understand how, again, one party has run this city since 1959. So if something's screwed up, you're the people who've effed it.
Yes. And by all counts, I mean, I haven't seen all the names yet, but supposedly they have 9 votes in favor of defunding the police, which is pretty much veto proof. Not that, as I call him, Soy Boy would
Not that little twerp,
yes.
little pipsqueak.
I don't know if he would veto that or not.
He's a coward. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, he did give 100,000. Was it 100,000?
Do you know
he sent to the police force?
Do you know he's asking for $55 million of state and federal money to rebuild Minneapolis? You know what? Screw you. That's what I have to say. Screw you, you incompetent bozo. I'm not paying 1 cent to your dump of a city. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, let me say this. I feel super bad for anybody that lost a home, lost a business.
Yeah. I'm not throwing that at the citizens.
I would be more than happy to help and give manual labor, and I don't have much financially to give, but any way that I can help, I would love to. But when it comes to giving money to a political entity who's going to squander it away,
who let the police buildings burn? Who stood down?
Yeah.
While all this happened?
Yeah. Exactly. How much of this money is going to go to the people? Is like we always see in government. It's going to go to special interests. It's going to funnel through this group and that group, and you're going to waste it on administrative costs and employee hours. And no.
Now, let me ask a question about this. And I mean, we're going to explore this defunding of the or eliminating the police. So all the policemen are laid off. All the police cars that they have, all of the equipment, all of their training centers are now or would be defunct.
Yeah.
Everybody's fired.
I guess so.
All the good police officers.
Yeah, and there are a lot of good police officers
also
as well.
They're also all fired.
Yeah.
So what happens on Saturday then?
Well, I don't think it's going to be immediate, meeting adjourned.
Well, you defund them, then, I mean, who's paying the paychecks?
They probably have enough money to get through.
How about local government aid? Can the state come in and say, all right, well, you don't want to have a police force, and we're the ones that are going to have to back you up. We're not paying you anything.
Minneapolis gets a lot of money
they get
in state aid.
Ton.
So
I don't understand why. You got 350,000 people. You got sports stadiums. You got... I mean, how in the world are they short of money? Hotels and office buildings, and I mean, you name it. Unfortunately, it's there, good and bad. And I mean, I worry about our schools. I mean, you talk about having no law enforcement ever. Mm-hmm. There's a problem at a school and you dial 911. What happens?
Yep.
Remember, they're under contract with them.
Yes, and Minneapolis Public Schools is looking at canceling that contract, which may be null and void anyways if they get rid of the police.
But, I mean, if you have a school shooting, how do you go diffuse that unarmed?
Forget about that. I mean, that is like the most extreme example.
Right, that's true.
Let's say 5 people are fighting in a hall.
Yeah.
Something that happens every day in Minneapolis schools.
Bring in Obama.
Bring in the wet noodles that aren't carrying anything and don't have no power to break anything up. Now, you guys, it's not nice to fight.
Bring in Obama. Everybody will be asleep in 30 seconds. We need to have a conversation. There's a lot to do about this. I mean, that's boom. We're all asleep by then. And by the way, I mean, you can't defund something and not explain what's going to replace it. I mean, as stupid as this already sounds.
Oh, and I think that they have their idea. I think they've been working on this a while. In fact, the articles that are out there have said that some of these council members have been working on this quite a while.
Remember, Jay, never let a crisis go to waste.
Right, exactly. They've been waiting for an opportunity, I'm trying to remember I know that Keith Ellison's son, who is on the city council in Minneapolis, is in favor of this.
Well, look, any dumb idea, and pretty much all of them are in favor of it.
Yeah. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Of course, our favorite Minneapolis city council member, Alondra Cano, doesn't know what is going on.
She don't know nothing. And by the way, she was tweeting the other night accusing the governor of pulling the National Guard back. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true or false, but wait a minute. Thought you weren't for any armed police force.
Yeah.
So if Walz pulled them back, she ought to be standing up there cheering.
Yeah.
But instead, she's whining. So, you know what here's what I would do. And when I'm governor, and if a city threatens to do this, I'm going to do three things. A, I'm going to propose no local government aid of any kind. B, I'm going to give stand down orders to the highway patrol. C, because I don't control county, I wouldn't control county sheriffs, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
3, I would tell the National Guard, you don't ever set foot in that city. I don't care what happens. Things get burnt down, blame the city council. I would stand them down too.
Yeah.
Now, protecting the public is government's, well, one of their main duties, if not number one. I mean, obviously, defending and executing the Constitution is their main thing, really their only thing. Going with that, though, is city charters and all that from the state government. And public safety is something that is mandated that all local governments do. Whether it's in conjunction with the sheriff's office or what, they all have some sort of plan with police, fire, things like that. This is beyond an abdication of that. I mean, you almost couldn't. I wonder what Minneapolis could do that could be worse at this point than have a week of rioting and then disarm and get rid of your own law enforcement agency.
Yeah.
I mean, what could you possibly do that would be stupider than that?
Exactly. Not much. It boggles the mind. It's like we had the entire city on fire, people looting, people shooting guns, explosives, whatever. Hey, I know. Let's get rid of the force that keeps law and order in the city.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to laugh at it, but
it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's either laugh or cry. I think, and I don't think I would be venturing into Minneapolis if they decide to do this. I mean, granted, most trips you're going to be fine, but look at what happened. I mean, this is a great example of this. Policy has been to pull police presence back in Minneapolis, in downtown and some other areas. Downtown has turned into a hole. How many videos have you seen about gangs of youth like mugging somebody and kicking them and beating them up? Or how many times have you heard about fights downtown and this and that? And we're going to pull back the people, or we did pull back the people that were trying to keep that law and order down there, and now we're just going to get rid of them across the entire city.
Well, but I mean, it's bigger than that, though. I mean, the police do. I just wonder how many people who want to get rid of police have ever talked to their local police department, done a ride along, met anybody there, done anything like a neighborhood watch with the police, things like you and I have done.
Yeah.
And look, I want to state for the record, there are a lot of people on extremes on this issue. I am not a police apologist, and I am not a police hater. I consider myself a case-by-case guy who understands that the police have leeway to do a tough job and sometimes have to make judgment calls in a split second. And I think they always are Monday morning quarterbacked. Yep. Everything's on video now, so everything is subject to some lame brain laying around sitting in his shorts with nothing to do. So it's a difficult job. Having said that, they have to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
Just like anybody else. So to me, what we have to do is find that fine line. And the idea that this is what really gets to me. I hear somebody say, well, the statistics say there's more blacks committing crimes than proportionate to the population. Well, how do you fix that? If If a black guy's driving 100 miles an hour in a 30, do we not pull him over because that would increase the tickets given out? I mean, I don't understand how that's a fix. The fixes are going to be slow and over time, and they involve way more than speeding or being late on some child support payments or whatever. It's a cultural shift that has to happen.
Yeah.
And our leaders aren't doing anybody any favors because they're the ones not solving these problems.
Right.
Like we said last week, Jay, when I talked about the Reverend Jackson and the Reverend Sharpton and said, what problems have they solved?
None.
Now, 3 out of 4 black children are born outside of marriage. That's a fact. I'm not racist for saying that. I'm giving you a fact. Tell me Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson's ideas on how to change that.
Yeah, I haven't heard them.
So, again, until half the black kids in Minneapolis don't graduate high school. What are Jackson and Sharpton's ideas to change that? What is our legislators' ideas? What is the Minneapolis City Council ideas? Yep. You want to get crime down, okay? You got to have and by the way, this goes for other races too, including whites.
Yeah.
Okay. Poverty is colorblind
right.
and things like that. You look at the problems of the inner city, and it's gangs, drugs, unplanned pregnancy, and not getting your education. Mm-hmm. Those 4 things, you will find 1 or 2 of them in every teenage delinquent, in every person doing, they're doing drugs or they're dropped out of school or whatever. And until those problems are fixed, our inner cities are going to be, and they have not been fixed. In my opinion, they haven't even been addressed. Okay? And, I've gone back and forth on drug decriminalization. I've gone back and forth on other issues like that. I believe in second chances. We've talked about that on previous shows that I was in favor of the second chance law that President Trump signed a few years ago. I think if somebody boosts a car when they're 19 and they're now 40, that shouldn't chase them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
People do make mistakes. People do change. It does happen. It happens every day in the United States. But until these other problems are solved, okay, I don't understand what you expect police to be doing. I mean, if there's drugs being dealt and drugs are illegal, remember the police's job is to enforce the law, not decide what laws they're going to enforce.
Right.
Are they supposed to see what color they are first? If a white person's jaywalking, should we go get them?
No, and I would say this. If you're a police officer and you have ever enforced the law on somebody because they were a certain color,
yes, that's different.
You're reprehensible.
Yes.
You need to lose your job. You are not protecting and serving everybody. And you need to be done.
Yes, everybody deserves that equal protection. No
Absolutely. The whole phrase, I was caught driving while black. If there is a police officer that hears this and you have actually done that, well, you need to be done.
It's happened, no doubt about it.
Done. There's no room for you in our justice system. However, like you said, just because somebody commits a crime and gets caught, that does not make a police officer bad. And that's where we have to make adjustments and try to figure this thing out. And it's hard in this environment because the political pressure is so great to make sure that certain people can get away with things because they think that these other people have gotten away with things for such a long time.
True, but let me ask you something. I keep hearing the term systematic racism.
Systemic.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Systemic. Some people, you say tomato, I say tomato.
Yeah. Okay.
What does that mean? Because to me, systemic racism is Jim Crow laws. That's systemic racism. That's
Absolutely.
one law for whites, one law for blacks.
Yep.
Now, I'm not aware of any laws that are whites only or black only. And if you want to flip it, aren't you creating one law for blacks and one law for whites?
Yeah. It's true. I think what their argument is that that through their training and through the culture, the system, that there's racism inherent in the system, because it's a culture issue, it's a training issue, and they must recruit racists as well, to do the job.
So who says that? Is that again these people sitting on a couch on their phone, bopping their banana? Is that who's saying that? I mean, because what I want to see is specifics. You show me a law. You show me a training guide. You show me a training method that has systemic. I want to. I mean, look, I'm not arguing that what the scenario you pointed out's never happened. I want to say that there's no doubt that it has. Okay.
Well, I mean, the argument was stop and frisk, that inherently,
supported by who? Inner city Democrats in New York.
I know, but that's one example.
Mike Bloomberg implemented. Rudy Giuliani didn't.
Yeah.
I think that is an example.
Yeah.
That is pretty racist to stop. I mean, Mike Bloomberg was caught saying, you see a black guy with a gun, go up there and take it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their anti-gun views have gotten in their way of their... It's like, black person can get a conceal and carry, by the way.
And I encourage you to. If you're a law-abiding black person or Asian person or...
Second Amendment applies to you
yes.
as much as applies to anybody.
I cheer every time that happens.
And you're going to have to in Minneapolis.
Oh, absolutely.
Cash and carry should be a requirement of citizenship, cash and carry.
Yeah.
The hell am I thinking? I got World War II on my mind.
Or you're thinking of the guy at the Minneapolis Fed still. I don't know.
Cash and carry it out of there.
Yeah.
What did I say? Conceal and carry.
Yes.
Yeah, so... By the way, off the subject,
yeah,
a few people made comments to me when I said 2 weeks ago when I called Dwight Yoakam Dwight Yankum.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I got a few people making fun of me for saying that.
Okay.
Little mistake there, okay? Hadn't heard Yankum in a long time. Now, so how, you're going to have a conceal and carry in Minneapolis because, how you going to, you can't call 911, they're not armed.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting quandary for old Hutch down there. Old
Hutch
Sheriff
Hutchinson?
Hutch. Are you going
to... You can wake him up to do it.
He's the one that has to approve or disapprove concealed carry, or rather carry permits. They're not conceal and carry permits. It's a carry permit to carry a firearm. So...
I got a feeling he's going to be busy.
Yeah, he's going to be busy. Is he going to?
He has to
be torn about it. It's like I don't want more guns. But
okay. If you say no, we all know what happens here.
Yeah.
You say no to them. What happens? You get them underground.
Right.
Okay. You open that black market. They're going to have them. I'd rather have them legally registered. People showing them off, shall we say?
Yeah, open carry.
I'd rather have that than have, it's kind of like having a big dog in your front yard. Okay,
Yeah.
I'd rather have that. If I know dialing 911, I'm going to get Jacob Fry to come over and play Yahtzee. I'd rather have open carry.
Yeah.
I'd rather have. Wyatt Earp and Ike Clanton walking down the street. Yeah, you got to take the training course. But, I'd rather have that than have an unarmed police force, whatever you want to call them, the Flower Pot Club or whatever. I
like that.
Let me ask you something. I know how much you hate this city, Minneapolis. I hate. Look. If Target Field wasn't there,
I don't hate the city. The government, that's a different issue. What they've done to that city.
Yes, but who put them there? Ultimately, citizens put them there.
But how many cities do citizens not pay attention to who they put in?
Jay, remember that they don't do that anymore.
All of them.
That's our mission.
Yeah, I know.
By the time I die, everybody's going to know their city councilman in Minneapolis. It'll still be a hellhole, but everybody will at least know.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for Target, why does Target Field have to be there?
I don't know.
Even if you put it in St. Louis Park, I don't want to go to Minneapolis ever.
Yeah.
How'd you like to be a business owner, too? You're basically responsible for your own security now. What's your insurance rates going to look like when they don't have a police force? Anybody think of that?
Yeah, that's going to go up.
Homeowners insurance?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to break in. Well, call up the Flower Pot Club and get them over there to talk them out of taking your stuff. You know, I mean...
No, Bill, that's not very nice.
How about a fugitive from another city is loose in Minneapolis?
Mm-hmm.
Who goes and gets them?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and I mean, here's another thing. You just spent, I mean, are we going to get criminals from all over the frickin' country, the frickin' world?
Well, it depends how many cities do this. You know, like I said, LA is already, they either have or they're about to defund the LAPD.
It's funny. Have you heard any DFLers? Have you the governor comment on this, or
no.
DFLers in the House and Senate comment on this?
No.
Then why not? Why aren't they saying anything?
Well, because they're covering for Minneapolis.
But
you don't. They're grieving. You don't say anything. But this governor, I mean, I don't remember the question, but Jacob Fry was asked a very tough question, and it was fair. And Governor, said that he moved him away and said, "I'm sorry they asked you that question, Jacob."
I didn't see.
You didn't see that one?
I can't listen to Walls anymore. It's kind of. I notice gray hair here in the front of my head, and I think it comes from these Walls press conferences.
Good.
I do miss the Trump ones, though. I want to hear. I want to take a shot to ventilator. I want to do that. I mean, even you and your O'Douls would be trashed at the end. But I tell you what. I can't listen to them anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm really, it really, what really upset, here's another thing that upsets me. You watch their little press conferences. They schedule an hour-long press conference. And for 45 minutes, they have to talk and talk and talk and talk. Yeah. And they all say the same thing. Mm-hmm. They all basically tell the protesters, the rioters, the looters, hey, we're with you, but... You know, I got to act like, I got to act like, you know, I'm the governor here.
Right.
So go do what you want, but look, just know that, you know,
it's not okay to break things.
Yeah, you know, you naughty, okay, like Roscoe. Shame, everybody knows your name. Okay, but we got to stop it. We don't want to do anything.
Right.
You're not supposed to gather in groups of 10. We got a curfew, but you can stay out there all night.
Right.
But what does that show? I mean, it just shows. I mean, again, it's this, what is it with, why is it that no one on the left can stop and say, look, I agree, they could take your premise about some things being cultural or whatever and still say that the rest of the 90% of us who rely on the police for this and that, and we have to have some sort of law and order, or we have anarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, why can't someone step up and say that? What? I mean, why would it hurt them to do it?
Yeah.
They'd probably be cheered if they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I disagree that all minorities do not want all the police forces disbanded. I mean, there's no way that that's true. There's minorities who want to grow up and be police officers.
Absolutely.
And serve in the military.
And there's a lot of business owners who are very thankful that the police are there to save them when someone is trying to steal from them, or maybe, as we've seen the last week, start their store on fire or break their windows, or you got riffraff hanging around outside, you know, threatening people, or, you know,
I mean, what's Minneapolis going to look like in 5 years? You know, I mean, and here's the other question, Jay. Forget Minneapolis for a second. Where does this go in the rest of the state? I mean, are we going to see? Because even in red areas of Minnesota, sometimes have not red councils and things like that. Not that the Republicans are great on this issue either. There's plenty of room for improvement there. Yeah. Where does this go? I mean, are we looking at 852 other cities, thinking about it, looking at it? I mean, you're talking about police forces maybe of 20, 30, 40 people.
And there's a lot of cities that have county sheriffs.
There's a lot that have an agreement, yes.
don't have their own force because they got...
Call it 200. Call it 200
That's
cities.
probably fair.
And a lot of those are pretty decent size. I mean, cities of 10,000, 15.
I mean, could you see Rochester, Moorhead, St. Cloud,
Duluth.
Brainerd, Duluth,
Mankato,
Alexandria?
yeah. Well, Plymouth, I live in one of the
Albert
top
Lee.
20 cities.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Park. You're talking cities of 30, 40,
Yeah.
50,000 people. I mean,
I don't see Plymouth doing it, but I could see Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park doing it.
even Brooklyn Park.
Depends who's in charge over there.
Yeah. It may not. I don't think they'd have the votes now, but
No.
I think in 10 years they could.
They could.
Yeah.
And you get somebody like Joy elected over there, and
What about Susan
Susan Pa, yeah.
up for re-election this year? I see she filed on the last possible date.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just it re-emphasizes again the local elections. I mean, police forces are all about city, who's your mayor, and it would not shock me. And again, I don't know what problem's being solved. I mean, that's the other part that I'm not getting. I'm not getting how Mr. Floyd's death is avenged by getting rid of a police department. I'm not clear on that.
Yeah.
It's an emotional reaction. The worst thing you can do is not think, and I think there's a lot of that going on. It's the kind of thing that you punish the people who are guilty. You don't punish a bunch of people who are innocent.
Well, and they've said it though. I mean, I heard it just the other day where it's like, okay, we have charged Derek Chauvin. He's got murder too. He's got manslaughter. And now the other 3 cops have been charged as well.
Yeah, what were they charged with? I didn't see that.
Conspiracy.
Huh.
So,
Interesting charge.
yeah, it is. But they asked, okay, is that now enough? Oh, no, we're just getting started. So this is what we have to watch for. And this is what makes our sheriff elections in this state so important, our county attorneys and our sheriffs. And so many times we ignore those. And you think that in your county, do you have a sheriff that is willing to, A, uphold the rule of law, and B, allow you to be as free as possible when you don't break that law?
Well, in the old, not about breaking the law. I'd like to ask Minneapolis, is it okay if I don't pay my property taxes? Right. I mean, is that okay? Should minorities not have to because it disproportionately affects them? I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but it's like if we're going to socioeconomic everything here,
Yeah.
it's not just about law enforcement. There's a million different ways you can look at that.
Yeah.
School funding. I mean, there's which already Minneapolis tops the list. So I mean, there's again until problems are solved to where the economic opportunity is better. Because one of the things you keep hearing is, well, we need more minority teachers. We need more. The police and the schools have to reflect the community. I hear that all the time. Well, there's only so many people qualified to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't graduate high school, you're going to have a problem becoming a teacher. I hate to tell you.
Right.
Okay? You
don't go get that teaching license after you get a diploma in education, you're not going to teach.
It's as simple as that. You don't like that? Go change the law. But that's the law.
Right.
Okay? I don't want to dumb down our standards anymore. But I mean, there's certain standards to being a police officer. Not everybody's capable of doing it.
No.
I don't think I am. Okay? I don't think I am. I don't think I can pass that rumble and tumble test. I don't want to get maced. Okay? There's just something. I've always wanted to be a firefighter for some reason, but
Yeah.
Except I think I'd act very stupidly. I'd kind of probably disregard myself, and that's not smart either. You got to be smarter than that. But again, there's certain physical things you have to be able to do. There's certain tests you have to pass. There's an academy you have to go through. I mean, there's a lot of requirements to these jobs, and you can't hand them out based on race. It has to be on ability. And if it's not, then you're not living up to your job of getting the best teachers, the best police officers, the best people you can find.
And really, by hiring by race, aren't you saying that these people are, it's racist in itself, because you're saying these people are not as qualified as these people of a different race over here. So we have to give them preferential treatment because they're not as good. And that's not true.
Yes, and it's well-intentioned and foolish. At the same time, it's not okay, in my opinion, to tell minorities, hey, you're only getting this job because you're a certain skin color. We don't think you're as good as this person. What kind of message is that to send to a new police officer? Oh, well, hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that message to send to a teacher? Yeah, you're not very good at this, but I got a quota I have to meet, so you're in.
You're the new token bohunk on the force.
So, I mean, it's bad no matter how you do it. You just, again, but this is where we have to solve the problems of, like I said before, drugs, education, gangs, and that requires law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement has to be a part of that solution.
Yes.
It has to be.
Has to be.
You can make changes.
Mm-hmm.
You can change laws.
Yep.
You can change trainings. And another thing I think that needs to happen is, where's the communication between law enforcement and community leaders, and I use that term loosely, whether that's church groups, whether it's activist groups, whether it's neighborhood watch, whether it's business leaders. Why don't we all have a round table?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it have to be, you know what I'm saying? I mean, is there communication between it? Probably not. Communication can always be better.
Mm-hmm.
But, when something like this happens, everybody has to decompress emotionally for a bit.
Yeah.
And then look for practical solutions. And not every solution is going to take a week. Some of these might be years, maybe years for some things to change.
Yeah.
You don't change things in education in one semester. Show me a change that's ever happened.
Yeah.
It takes a while, over a period of time. You got to change people's minds, their perceptions, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things to do. So, I mean, this is a disaster. It's a disaster. How can I put it any better than that?
You've got to have law and order as part of your solution. And I'm sorry, unarmed peacekeepers aren't going to do it.
No, if I saw Jacob Fry knock on my door and say he was going to keep the peace, I'd laugh. And I'd say, look, nobody who a 12-year-old girl can lose to in arm wrestling is going to keep the peace anywhere.
Go keep it somewhere else.
Go play Connect 4 somewhere else and leave me alone. I mean, it's just... I don't know, but I'm disappointed to see our other leaders not weighing in on. Where's Joe Biden on this?
Well...
I mean, but I think that some of these leaders could have a lot of influence, and maybe they could have thoughtful things to say. And
here's the thing. Joe Biden has surrounded himself with people that are radical because he needs their vote in order to be...
He does.
He's
undermining his own candidacy by doing that.
Well, we'll see.
For every radical he's bringing in, he's losing 10 votes in Pennsylvania, 10 votes in Ohio, 10 votes in Michigan, and he needs those way more.
Let's hope so.
No, you know what he needs? He needs the governor of Michigan with him. That's what he needs. That'll just ensure he goes down in flames. I think he's going to take, what's her name?
Yeah?
The lady who looks like the mom on that one show. Remember we talked about it?
I can't remember.
The show where the guy goes, Dynamite!
Yeah.
Remember that show?
Good Times?
Good Time.
Yeah.
The mom. That's who she looks like.
What, Stacey Abrams?
That's it. Yeah.
He's getting a lot of pressure.
Florida Evans. That's who she... Florida Evans.
What would you call her?
I think she's the pick. I do.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I think he's
her
already...
claim to fame is losing a governor's race?
He's already said he has to take a woman. There's going to be so much pressure to take a minority, which means either Stacey Abrams or Elizabeth Warren. Mm-hmm. So he's... it has... And I'm going to... You know what? I'm going to defend Amy Klobuchar for a second here.
Yeah.
She's getting grief for prosecuting people.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what the job of a prosecutor is? Prosecute the criminals.
Yeah.
Not say, well, you know what? This could hurt me in an election in 20 years, so I'm just going to let this slide.
Well, that's kind of how they're thinking now.
Yeah, but she did. I'm going to say this: she did her job. There's a case on her desk. She prosecuted it. Prosecutors are supposed to be cold-blooded. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to, again, they take an oath. I mean, and it's not okay for a county attorney to just decide they're not going to enforce something.
Well, that's also the direction we're headed in.
Unfortunately, it is. But I think the criticism she's getting is unfair. I do.
Yeah, well.
And she should come out and say something instead of sit there with that smirk all the time. She ought to say and explain herself. But whatever. But it's not fair. What's being said about her is not fair. And I'm fair here. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't like her, it doesn't matter. But I'm telling you, here's another thing. Me guessing that Biden is going to choose Mrs. Evans.
Abrams.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Florida
matter.
Evans. It's
Yeah.
Florida Evans from Good Times.
Okay.
Just ensures that she won't be picked because my prognostication skills have been awful.
Yeah.
So I probably just totally jinxed her. Doesn't matter. Not going to win anyways. It doesn't matter. But still, I think that's where it's heading. I think you're going to hear an announcement in the month of June. There's another prognosis. I'm going to give you 2.
Wow.
So, dynamite!
There you have it. Wow.
I could not think of the show's name. It escapes me. I get the feeling, Jay, we're going to talk about this a whole lot more.
Probably, because
and months.
just like with what's happened in the last week, I think that these things are going to move really fast. And I think there's going to be a lot of news. And I think that it's going to take shape. Some cities are going to fall like dominoes. Others, there's going to be more of a drag-out fight over time. So there's so much that we don't know yet about the reconstruction efforts in Minneapolis, who's paying for that, how that's coming, and how this shakes out across the state. Because, I mean, yes, this happened in Minneapolis, but if you're out there in greater Minnesota, I mean, there are cities where this will be a big issue, and there are other cities where I think you'll feel the aftershocks of it a little bit.
Breaking news here.
Yeah.
Governor Walz tomorrow, of course, when people hear this, it'll be old news,
Yes.
to announce the next steps in the state's coronavirus response. Of course, as always with Walz, he doesn't tell anybody anything.
Right.
So I know you'll be tuning in, Jay, won't you?
Yes, sure. I'll be right there. I have to, because all of you need to know what's going on.
All right, Jay, it is time. It is time
Yes.
for the sign-off sermon. SOS, ladies and gentlemen, with inspiring words to end this show and for you to think about until next week's show. I present the Count of Monte Cristo, the master of disaster, the ping of sting, the suffering of succotash.
Wow.
It is with the sign-off sermon, not the pregame preach. We don't need that. Don't work for the Vikings anyway. We have, ladies and gentlemen, the sign-off sermon. Jason, take it away.
The suffering of succottage.
Oh, I had
like
to think
that.
of something.
I like that.
Just made that up.
I came in here today ready to, I think, yell and scream, and I was so angry all day. I see what's happening to my city, and I am just beside myself. And yeah, I don't live in Minneapolis, but you know what? This is all my city, and I don't mean that like in Braveheart, where he says, "No, this is my island." I mean, you know what happens?
Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
Okay.
what happens in one part of the Twin Cities affects all of us, and we're all kind of interconnected. And I just watch what has happened over the last week. And it has broken my heart every day. I just, not just in the city, but what the outflow of this city has been. Where in a tragic incident, a man loses his life. And it seems like the bottom fell out of the world after that. And it doesn't make sense anymore. The world has been turned upside down, and I don't recognize it. I mean, here we are. We're talking about getting rid of police officers when we have anarchists running through the streets, lighting things on fire, beating people up, stashing caches of bricks around, threatening to take down society and remake it in their own image. I don't want that. I don't want what they're proposing. But our leaders are absent. Oh, there are a few. There are a few, but most of them are sticking their head in the sand. I mean, they're too worried about a $2 billion bonding bill that's coming down, and are they getting theirs for their district, rather than taking care of us and getting rid of this stupid emergency powers that are they're killing businesses across the state. That is keeping people separated, that is allowing some people to have a funeral, some people to not have a funeral, allowing some people to gather in throngs in the street, other people can't even sit in their own church. We need to get rid of it. Where are you? When we have supposedly a conservative contingent in the state that can't even, I mean, you guys are really looking to take back the House, and I don't know, Andrew, what was the final number? There were like 9 seats that are going uncontested.
I think it's 6. I think it's down to 6.
Where are you? Where are you? We are worried, and rightly so, about this man's life and his death and how he died. Well, we let a governor, go off scot-free for having the worst long-term care policy in the country for months on end. And we have our elderly dying in these places because he's knowingly sending people with COVID into these nursing homes, putting our nurses at risk, putting our other medical workers at risk, putting our elderly at risk. Where's the charges there? Because he knows dang well that he's sending people into their death. Those people don't care. Those people don't get a day in court. Those people don't ever get to face their accuser. I mean, vice versa. Sorry. Those people don't ever get to bring their claim against the guy who's responsible for it. Those families just get to suffer, and they don't even get a funeral. All of this celebration over George Floyd's life today in the cities, and across the nation, and all of the protests and all of the anger about police violence and racism and all that, it's justified. I support it. I support your right to protest, because someday it may be me who needs to protest. And it has been. When we talk about not being able to worship as we see fit, when not being able to operate our businesses freely. So I support your right to protest. What I don't support is people ripping up my city, is people beating up the other citizens of my city, is people coming and stealing and looting and setting things on fire and turning this place into a hole. You want to get rid of the police. Minneapolis, we have been sitting here and talking to you for how many years? This is season 4 of this podcast, and we have sat here and told you, you are electing radicals. You are getting more radical people in there. You are taking and kicking out Democrats to put in radicals. You're getting exactly what you asked for. You think you're getting justice? You just wait till you need to call 911 and nobody's there. Or they send over some flower pot bunch that they come armed with silly string and listen. This is going to be a problem if we do not shake ourselves awake. I'm sick and tired of watching what is happening to my country. I grew up here. What I value matters too. What Andrew values matters too. What you, the listener, values matters too. And we are being overrun by a vocal minority that tries to shut us down, shut us up, and put in things that we never dreamt possible even 5 years ago. But we sit and we take it. We sit and we take it politely because I don't know why. Why do we do it? Why do we sit and watch our country, our city burn, and we don't do anything? Fewer than 1% of people in this state, at least from our calculations on the conservative side, have done very little to get some skin in the game. But yet, look at all the people that are complaining on Twitter, that are complaining on Facebook, that are complaining here and complaining there, and throwing empty cans at the TV. It doesn't solve a thing. It doesn't. What policies, what decisions are you able to make and force change with doing that? We love you, our listeners. We love you, and we are so appreciative of you. And I know I'm fired up these last few weeks, but this is because I have seen the systematic deconstruction of everything that we have held dear. And the way that we have done society for a couple hundred years is falling apart. There are things that need to change, and we need to make sure that those things are changed. We need to eradicate every shadow of racism in this state. People are people. Grow up. You have people of all skin colors that are good at anything under the sun, that are as smart as can be. You also have a lot that are as dumb as can be. Every color. You know what? Doesn't matter. People are people. We got to love each other. We got to help people up when they've fallen down. We have to extend a helping hand, and we have to love on them. We have to help provide for their needs out of the goodness of our heart, not because some government demands it from us. You know why they demand it from us? Because we're not doing our part. Because our churches have stayed in their four walls for too long. Because we're not doing enough as far as groups and nonprofits and things that can make a change. If every one of us was giving time and giving money, we would see things change, and we wouldn't have these things put in by the government. They wouldn't have to take as much from us because we can stand and say, no, we're taking care of this. No, we're taking care of this. No, we're taking care of this. But instead, we put everything in the government's hands and then wonder why we're left holding the bag when everything blows up. I am tired of it. I am not ready to give my city over to a bunch of anarchists. I am not Worse yet, ready to give my city over to a bunch of government elites that sit there in St. Paul, sit there in Minneapolis, sit there in Washington, sit there in Brooklyn Park, sit there in, you name the city, you name the county, you name the state, and let them affect what's going to happen to me. No, I believe in freedom. I'm angry. It stinks. We got to come together, Minnesota. Black, white, red, yellow, brown. Man, woman, Christian, non-Christian, conservative, liberal. There are radical elements in this state, in this country, that have been trying for a long time to change everything that is good about what we are. And if we don't come together and we don't start standing up, it's gone. Done. So I don't know. Are we going to be the people that team Jersey all the way, or are we going to be the people that look and say, you know what? Yeah, he's on the team I normally vote for, but he's an idiot. I need someone else. This does not work for me. I'm sorry. We have supported criminals. We allow people like Ilhan Omar to stay in office. We allow people like Keith Ellison to stay in office. We allow people who have no idea what they're doing and are in over their head, like Jacob Fry, to stay in office, like Tim Walz to stay in office, because they wear the right jersey. Oh, and it's rampant on the Republican side, too. Don't think that you're getting off scot-free. There are plenty of them over there at the Senate that are going to go right ahead and jump in on this bonding bill. You're not ever going to know all that you're giving away until one day it's gone. But at least you'll have a nice, shiny new bridge to show for it. You know, we sit here in these chairs every week, and we tell you the truth. We do our research, and we don't pull punches. We're not, by any means, Republican apologists. We're definitely not liberal, but we're not Republican apologists either. We've been fighting this state to try and get them to notice that local elections matter. To no avail. But now maybe you are starting to see that local elections do matter. Who you have sitting as mayor and city council when the bottom falls out of everything matters. So, what you going to do? For those of you who have primaries and a few other places, it's all over. If you didn't get your name in, it's done for another 2 years. But you know what? There's another round coming. If you're in a majority of the Minnesota cities, you can still file for office in a window later this summer. So you better start thinking about it now. Because we're here to help you. That's about all I got to say about that, I think. You got something over there, Andrew?
Huh?
Do you got something? I see you pulling your mic up.
Are you still talking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I don't have anything.
Oh, my word.
I've been listening the whole time, though.
Yeah, it looks like it. If I'm not captivating you, maybe everybody else is bored too.
I'm not bored. I'm just letting you get it all out of your system.
I kept it pretty calm. So, I don't know. We got some good shows coming up, though, don't we?
Yeah, some good shows that you should listen to if
Absolutely.
you haven't already.
Absolutely.
164th one, I believe, today.
Yes.
I think I'm up to 19 and a quarter for right answers on the music on Spotfly. You can go there, and one of these days you're going to download it for me.
Yes.
So I can enjoy the music that comes along with the podcast at the very beginning of the show.
Absolutely. Anything happen in your city, your county, you maybe just signed up to run for an office, get a hold of us. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That's COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. We'd love to help you out. That's what we do. You know why? Because we love you, Minnesota. And now it's your turn to get to work. Take my life, caught a break between the lines. Don't let me be. If I get too caught up